Morning everyone, and welcome back to the vlog. Well, we're still over on the west coast of Scotland, and I'm at a place called Glen Nant Nature Reserve, a couple of miles out of Tainault, just below Oban. And Glen Nant is one of the remaining rainforests here on the west coast of Scotland, and it really is quite breathtaking. I'm sort of surrounded by oaks, willows, hazel, and some scatterings of rowan, and we're just sort of late September, so the trees haven't really started, they're just beginning to turn for autumn. I've not been here before, so I'm really looking forward to exploring up through some of these trails and seeing what I can find. The light's a little bit grey, but it's just absolutely beautiful, peaceful. A little bit of the road there, but we're heading off up the glen a wee bit, and yeah, stunning. The trees are just dripping in lichen, and really is breathtaking. So looking forward to exploring the area. You can see just how much rainfall we get on the west coast here. Some of these trees are just absolutely carpeted in moss. And I was reading just before I came here and was doing a bit of research that there's over 240 different species of moss and liverwort. Now, I hadn't heard of liverwort before. I'd heard of lungwort, but not liverwort. But there's absolutely covered across some of these branches. And just looking in small areas, you can just see so many different variations sweeping across the branch. It's quite incredible. And this looks like lungwort, just growing overhead. So I'm just walking along the path here, and I've just noticed this beautiful sort of like, now I think it's El Camilla that's growing up along the side here. Corin's sort of thinks that it probably is, but what's really caught my eye is they're absolutely covered in tiny raindrops that are sort of separated and look absolutely stunning. So what I'm going to do is just throw on the macro lens and just see if I can get a shot. I've been up and down here, and there's a nice group of three, and what I want to do is just look down and just capture that sort of network and pattern of raindrops that have sort of almost neatly separated on these leaves. It really does look quite nice. So unfortunately, I don't have a polarizer for the macro lens, so hopefully there won't be too much light coming up from those raindrops. But I've got to be really careful as well, because what I don't want to do is knock the leaves with the tripod lens and then knock all those beautiful water droplets off. So I'm going to position myself, see if I can get right over the top and get a nice sort of pattern of those beautiful leaves together. Now, the technique that I'm actually using to focus in on these leaves with the macro lens is peak focusing. And you can actually see when you switch your camera to peak focusing, you need to be on manual focus, but it will actually highlight the areas of your image, that contrast, where you're actually in focus, what you're actually focused on. And working like this really enables me to be able to see exactly the elements within this image, that because there's such a shallow depth of field on the macro lens, it really helps me to see which areas are in focus. And if you can see all the sort of red areas around, then those red parts are exactly what's showing you the areas that are actually focused. And if I change the aperture, those areas will increase, because the narrower the aperture, the more that's going to actually be in focus. And I can actually control that focusing by just adjusting my aperture and looking at those areas that show are in focus. Now you can see on the back of my camera, using focus speaking, you can see the areas that are red. They're nice and sharp and in focus, and then the areas that aren't, they're not in focus. Now you can see that as I adjust the focus on my camera, you'll see that they'll actually change. And what I'm trying to do is get as much of that area in focus as possible on this lens at this aperture. So by adjusting it and just getting as much of that red appear as possible in the really important areas of the image, I know it's going to be nice and sharp. And that just saves me zooming into all of those small little areas just to make sure that it is nice and in focus. I know that those areas that are highlighted in red are nice and sharp. I love this beautiful old twisting oak that comes up over the path here. It's almost like it's stopping anybody over the height of 7 foot coming up through here. But unfortunately, where I am, I'm being lowered down. Any angle that I get of this tree is shooting up into the sky, and it's too bright and there'll be too much contrast. But definitely one to remember on another time, perhaps when it's a little bit more overcast, a little bit of mist, just something to give it a little bit of separation. But absolutely beautiful tree. But you can see coming up the hill and looking back behind me, what a beautiful scene that oak now is, with that beautiful light coming through the trees behind, really soft light. And we now get the branch coming up over. The path isn't quite such a focus, and we've got a tunnel of light creeping through. So that's got to be my next shot. Let me show you on the back of the camera what I'm looking at, and this just really does prove that you should always look behind you when you're coming up through some of these beautiful areas, just to re-see the scene from a different angle. And this really is beautiful. We're looking down now at that oak, and you can see I've positioned it over to the right hand side there, and we've got this beautiful big branch that comes out over to the left, and this lovely soft light that is under this branch on those trees behind. Now I've tried to give as much separation as I can to some of these trees. Not very easy because there's a lot going on there, but I like this one on the right hand side that's just coming up to the right there. I love the sort of tones of that brown bracken just coming in through the green areas as well. And it really is a beautiful scene. So I'm shooting on my 24-70 lens, and I've put on the polarizer. You can actually see the difference that it makes. If I turn the polarizer, you see that it cuts back some of that strong light which is reflected. It's been raining for a while, so we've got a lot of light being reflected off some of the leaves there, but the polarizer really does knock back some of that strong light coming through. And yeah, it really does make for a beautiful scene. And I like the way that your eye is drawn underneath that branch off into the distance. You can just capture a little bit of the pathway down through there. And there's some lovely just sort of speckles. The leaves are just starting to turn. So we've got some sort of speckles of yellows and golden colours in the leaves behind, which really just adds that little bit of splash of colour. I'm going to stop waffling, take the picture, and here it is. So I've come off the main trail and now I'm just following some smaller footpaths through the forest here. And it's absolutely beautiful. I haven't bumped into anybody yet. And it's a real mismatch of trees coming down through here. We've got alder, we've got birch, we've got oak. And there's something just something catches your eye all the way through here. There's not a sound, all I can hear is the birds and the water droplets coming off of the leaves where we've had a wee bit of rain. But, you know, I kind of get that feeling that if you just wandered off, you would just find so many different scenes. Definitely somewhere that I'm going to be coming back to, for sure. This is a prime example of a coppiced oak. Over 150 years ago, this would have been chopped right back and used for producing charcoal, and then it would have re-sprouted, and some of these trunks were then going to be used sort of 20 years later to keep producing the charcoal. But of course 20 years later there wasn't the need for charcoal, and you're left with these incredible trees. So sometimes you just come across a scene and it's just there waiting for you. I've been walking through the woods here and got these beautiful old oak branches. I don't know if you can just see that. And the light is just sat behind them, really capturing the moss. It's like a network of old trees coming up. And I think just that scene through there with that beautiful soft light will just be absolutely stunning. There's some real nice contrasts in those trees. You've got the mosses and there's some real dark shadow areas, and they twist and come up through the forest there. Absolutely beautiful, a real patchwork of branches. So anyway, let me get the camera out and set up, and I'll show you what I'm looking at in the back of the camera. So you can see on the back of the camera, we've got this beautiful network of trees coming through here and branches twisting with that light coming behind. Now there is another nice image. If I just spin the camera around, there's some more trees just to the left-hand side, but that might just give me a little bit too much of a gap, although I do like that and the way those branches are coming in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shot first. I'm not so keen on this group of trees to my right here. They're a little bit of a mess, but I do love those old oaks. I'm not sure I'm going to want any of the bottom of the image. I may just crop in and just actually remove that just so that we've got the network of branches, but absolutely beautiful. Shooting on the 24 to 70mm lens, ISO 64, and be about a 1.3 seconds, but there's no movement. It's absolutely still, so I don't need to worry about shutter speed. Just beautiful. So anyway, I'm going to take this shot, take that now, and then I'm going to spin the camera around and see if I can catch those two trees as well. Come back a little bit further so that I've got those ones on the left and the right. I'll reposition myself and then show you that image as well. So you can see now I've actually swung the camera around to the left, and you've got these trees now that are on my left-hand side, these two oaks that are just side by side, but I love the way that their branches are reaching out into the other oak, and these branches are reaching into the middle. Now, obviously, this would be a lot nicer image if we had something stunning in the middle there to draw your eye in, just a single tree, but we don't, but we've got that beautiful patchwork of light coming through, which does draw the eye in, and I love the positioning of those trees, but maybe that gap's just a little bit too much. Anyway, I'll put this image up as well, and you let me know which one do you prefer. Well, I think that's it for this episode of the vlog. It's been absolutely stunning here in Glen Nant. There's so much diversity of foliage to photograph. I don't think this trip I've come away with a huge amount of images, but it's been a brilliant recce, and so many opportunities around every corner. You can see that the light's just starting to come out behind me, and we're just starting to get a warm glow in the trees. So perhaps later this afternoon, there might be an opportunity to get some more images. But anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Leave a comment below. It really helps the channel, and it's always good to hear from you. Hit the like button, hit the notification button. I think that's everything. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the vlog. Thank you so much for watching.